G'day OWFsquad, welcome back to another Thursday video. Today I don't have a trip report, so I'm showing you a plane spotting video that I did at Sydney Airport 3 weeks ago. At the end I'll do a Q&A as per usual. I hope you enjoy this video. So first up at runway 34 left, we have a Cathay Pacific A330-200 taking off for Hong Kong. This aircraft is 1 year old, registration Bravo Lima X-Ray Foxtrot. Before the pandemic, Cathay Pacific flies up to 4 flights a day to Sydney. Now it only carries passengers to Hong Kong 5 times per week. But there are more than 5 Cathay flights into Sydney every week because some of them are cargo. Next, we have a Jetstar A330-200 going to Melbourne. Registration Victor Hotel Victor Foxtrot, November. Before the pandemic, Sydney to Melbourne is the second busiest air route in the world, with up to 150 daily flights between the cities. Now there's no more than 6 flights per day. Accelerating on runway 34 left is Emirates Boeing 777-300ERF, a cargo flight, operating as EK2521 to Dubai via Manila. Emirates used to have multiple A380 flights into Sydney Kingsford Smith Airport, now Uni C777. Emirates Australasia Vice President Barry Brown told The Australian, which is an Australian news agency, that the 777s are the right size aircraft for us at the moment. But the more the borders open up, the more you'll see the A380s returning. There you have some parked planes, 3 Jetstar A320 variations at the Sydney Airport East-West runway. There you have another Emirates 777-300ERF parked at Terminal 1, the international terminal. Here we have a jumbo jet Singapore Airlines cargo 747-400 freighter taxiing to runway 34 left. Usually only the national carrier is allowed to have the national flag painted on the plane's fuselage. As you know, Singapore Airlines is national carrier of Singapore, hence the Singaporean flag on the beautiful Queen body. We'll see this gorgeous Queen take off later. Now it's Air China A330-200 arriving from Shanghai Pudong Airport. It's a very crosswind landing, as you can see. We'll see how it goes. The landing looked smooth and the pilot made it look very uneventful. Usually at a busy airport like London Heathrow, Hong Kong and Sydney Kingsford Smith, the moment you touch down you want to decelerate and leave the runway as soon as possible because another aircraft is going to land or take off behind you. The pilot of this Air China A330 has just switched off the reverse thrust and the aircraft is still taxiing at quite a high speed at the runway, meaning that he or she is not worried about another plane taking off or landing behind him or her. The Air China A330 now makes a left turn into Sydney Airport Terminal 1. Air China is China's national carrier, so you have the Chinese flag on the fuselage as well. The Singapore 747 freighter now takes off for Singapore. Here's a DHL 767-300 freighter operated by Tasman Cargo Airlines. Hence, this DHL 767 is actually registered in Australia, not the United States. Now we have another Air China coming from China. This is Airbus A330-200 arriving from Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a Chinese city that's directly above Hong Kong. Here's an interesting fact. I live in New Territories in Hong Kong, and Shenzhen's Bao'an Airport is actually closer to my home than Hong Kong's Chetlapkok Airport. But I still use the Hong Kong airport more often because when you travel between Hong Kong and mainland China, you'll still have to go through custom and immigration, and that can take quite a while. Like the previous Air China A330-200, this pilot has stopped doing the reverse thrust and just taxiing along on the runway. Now it's making a left turn into Terminal 1. Now the DHL 767 is now taking off for Auckland, New Zealand. Here's a Jetstar A320-200, just left Terminal 2, taking off for Adelaide later. As of recording this video, South Australia just opened to New South Wales 3 days ago, so passengers on this Jetstar flight to Adelaide won't need to isolate or quarantine when they arrive in Adelaide. Tomorrow I'm going to fly Qantas 737 to Adelaide. Here's another Jetstar A320 that just got pushed back. Later it's going to go to Ballina. Now we have a big fat jumbo jet arriving from Honolulu. This is UPS 747-8 freighter. The American Queen is taxiing graciously on the runway. Here's another cargo flight, FedEx FX6013 from Singapore. This is a Boeing 777 freighter. Just 6 minutes later, we have another FedEx 777. This is FX 767 arriving from Honolulu. From observation so far, we have a lot of flights domestic to Adelaide, international to Hong Kong, China, America, especially Honolulu, and also Singapore. Here's a QantasLink -Q400 arriving from I don't know where. Here's the Air Canada 777-300ER. Normally Air Canada operates daily flights to Vancouver from Sydney. This is a cargo flight, AC7218. I think the destination is going to be interesting for you. It's Auckland, New Zealand, so I think that's going to be a stopover. Later it's going to be Vancouver. Here's an arrival that I didn't expect at all, and I believe many Hong Kong people didn't expect this as well. It's Hong Kong Airlines HX2017, operated by an Airbus A330-200. Hong Kong Airlines used to serve Cairns and Gold Coast in Australia. It has suspended all Australian services about 2 years ago, so I was quite surprised to see this doing a cargo flight now to Australia, Sydney more specifically. The first Air China A330 we saw earlier is now taking off from runway 34 left back to Shanghai Pudong. Just a few minutes later, the Shenzhen flight now departs, A330-300. Here's an Air New Zealand A320-200neo arriving from Norfolk Island. Norfolk Island is an external territory of Australia, so I wasn't expecting an Air New Zealand flying from Norfolk Island at all. I was quite surprised to see this one, not arriving from the New Zealand mainland. Here we have a good old Qantas 737-800 arriving from Adelaide. It's just left the runway, now taxiing to Terminal 3, the Qantas terminal. Now we have another cargo flight from America, and you've guessed it right, it's Honolulu again. Atlas Air 747-8 freighter. This Atlas Air aircraft is part of the Qantas fleet, so Qantas has wet leased this 747 from Atlas Air, so it's operating for Qantas, and also later when it comes closer and I zoom in, you'll see the Qantas logo near the cockpit windows. So that's the Qantas freight logo underneath the windows. This 747, however, is still registered in America, so you see the US flag at the back of the plane. I was actually recording this plane spotting video inside a hotel room, and I didn't switch off my notification on the laptop, so apologies for that notification continuously. Next we have American 777-300ERF from LAX. It's a cargo flight. Flight number is AA9711. My longest flight ever was with American Airlines 777-300ER. It was last year, and I did Dallas-Fort Worth to Hong Kong. The flight was 16 hours, plus, taxi and getting off the plane. It was about 17 hours in total, and I thought it wasn't bad at all in economy class. All cabin and cockpit crew arriving from overseas into Australia, including all the crew on board this American 777, will have to go to hotel isolation when they arrive at Sydney, so they don't get to spend time having fun at Sydney at all. They only get their freedom back when they go back to America. For Cathay crew, I heard that when they go back to Hong Kong, they don't get their freedom back instantly. They have to go to isolation at home for 2 days. For the general public in Hong Kong, when they arrive to Hong Kong, they have to isolate for 14 days. This aircraft is slowly taxiing to the gate at Terminal 1. It's going to park right next to the Emirates 777-300ER. And those two aircraft look great together, I think. The UPS flight that arrived from Honolulu earlier is now pushing back, and it's later going to take off from runway 34 left for Seoul, South Korea. Before that, we have China Airlines CI51 A330-200 arriving from Taipei. Before the pandemic, China Airlines fly about 1 flight per day from Taipei to Sydney. Now with coronavirus, they do up to 3 flights, with 2 being cargo, 1 being passenger. So actually during the pandemic, China Airlines added more flights from Taiwan to Sydney. The UPS Queen just left the cargo terminal, now taxiing next to the international terminal, and later runway 34 left. That was the heaviest takeoff we've seen so far today. This is our last aircraft today, the same airline as the first aircraft coincidentally, Cathay Pacific CX2174 for Adelaide, later Hong Kong. I wish I was flying this aircraft to Hong Kong or even Adelaide. Instead, I'm flying Qantas 737 tomorrow. Adelaide Airport now sees one Cathay flight per week, and it's every Saturday evening. So the 777 is going to arrive Saturday evening from Sydney. About 2 hours later, it's going to fly to Hong Kong. It's a triangle route, so this aircraft does Hong Kong to Sydney and then Sydney back to Hong Kong with a stop at Adelaide. I hear this aircraft from my home almost every Saturday, and it's amazing. It wakes the whole city up. Hello there, welcome back to another Q&A. I hope you enjoyed that plane spotting video at Sydney Airport. It's low quality, but nonetheless, I tried my best filming in a indoor room. So I hope you enjoyed, and next week we'll see a trip report again. So let's kick off with the Q&A now. I have a question from Roger Weber. Hi Jaden, when you book your flights, do you book directly with the airline or use booking sites like Webjet? I use both. I go to Skyscanner and have a look what flights, what routes are the cheapest, and also I compare which websites are the best, and usually I book with whichever is the cheapest, but sometimes dodgy websites with no reviews, I skip them, I pass. So Expedia, Webjet, Budget Air, I book through all of them actually. I have a question from my patron, Ian. Would you fly a flight to nowhere? I would definitely love to fly on a flight to nowhere because it's not something that happens often. Qantas last week had a flight from Sydney to Sydney, but unfortunately I didn't even bother looking to book on that flight because the flight was from Sydney to Sydney, so New South Wales. When Qantas started selling the tickets, the South Australian border hadn't opened to New South Wales yet. They haven't announced the border reopening, so I didn't bother looking at it because I thought I would have to quarantine when I come back to Adelaide. And the second thing was, it wasn't quite cheap, so nope. Also, actually, Hong Kong Express invited me to their inaugural Hong Kong to Hong Kong flight. Unfortunately, I'm in Australia, so I can't attend to that flight, but I really appreciate them reaching out and giving me a free ticket to that flight. Third question, Instagram, Sebastian DEKA. How come that you're both so cute and so professional at the same time? Oh, someone's praising you, Lily. Her name's Lily, by the way. Demon Doge is just her Instagram name. Edmund Choi 1213. Why do you choose to study in Australia? Uni in Australia, but not in Hong Kong. And what motivates you to study aviation management? So, not Hong Kong for two reasons mainly, because I was already in Adelaide, and secondly, even though I was in Adelaide, I actually did look at the universities in Hong Kong. There are, I think, two that offers aviation management degree over there, but then I think the first one is Poly. Poly has a language, what's that? You have to learn Mandarin, and I don't really want to do that. Also, what's the second one? I can't remember, but it's something to do with language and the timetable as well, because I finished in Australia year 12 in November, but then, in Hong Kong, the new term or semester begins in September 1, so didn't want to wait, didn't want to have a gap year or gap months. So Australia. And why aviation management? Because I like aviation, but I don't really like to fly, so management is the one. Dragon 9, you seem to fly often. Why do you go to another city? How often do you go to Hong Kong? So before the pandemic, average 4 to 6 times a year, I go back to Hong Kong from Australia. And the reason why I go to Hong Kong is because that's my home, if you wonder. And why do you go to another city? I assume you're asking me why I go to a new place. That's because I like to explore the planet that we live in. Next question, Justin Chan, Boeing 787. Favorite lounge in the world? If you asked me this question last year, I would have said the Qantas Hong Kong or the Pier in Hong Kong, or maybe even the Wing. But now I would have to say Virgin Atlantic Clubhouse at London Heathrow, because the food is so good, the restaurant is nice. You don't even need to go to the restaurant for the restaurant food. You sit anywhere, there'll be a dedicated staff looking after you, really personalized service. You get spa there, very nice sauna in the shower room. The staff are so friendly, the restaurant staff are friendly, the waitress, the waiter, the spa people, the salon people were friendly as well. Also, it's got a playroom, it's got a balcony, a terrace on at the top of Terminal 3, amazing view overlooking Terminal 3. And I just really love that clubhouse concept. It's really nice. It's not really a lounge, it's a clubhouse, but it's a lounge. Let's do Zatri 415 for the last one. When did you start loving aviation? I started loving aviation when I was 2004 that was. That was after a flight, actually. I remember that so well. It was either an A330 or 777 on a Cathay flight from Osaka to Hong Kong. It was a really scary flight, really turbulent and thunderstorm outside, but somehow I was frightened and I was scared. I was yelling, I'm not gonna fly on any plane again. But don't know what happened. Maybe it tricked my brain or something. Ever since, maybe 2 days after, I just started falling in love into planes. Like every time I see the Cathay logo, I would say, oh, that's a Japanese plane, because that's what I flew to Japan. That's actually my home carrier. I was quite dumb back then, but yeah, that's when I started loving aviation, and I cannot tell you why. It's just a frightening experience turned into a passion, really. So that's it for the Q&A today. I really hope that you enjoyed the plane spotting, and see you next week in the report. I think it's going to be Virgin Australia economy class to Sydney. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Boston. For your safety, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and your cabin baggage stowed until the seatbelt sign has been turned off.